Today we're doing a versus battle with the Cylon Basestar Mark II from the reimagined Battlestar Galactica series, taking on the Terran Battlecruiser, specifically the Behemoth class from the Starcraft games. Their hard stats are up to conjecture, but I'll be using the most widely accepted ones for the fight. I honestly don't have a driving question to answer with this matchup, it just seemed like fun. So without further ado, we begin with the Cylon Empire's Basestar Mark II, though the Mark II designation is mostly just to distinguish themselves from their first Cylon War counterparts, but for the purposes of this video, I'll just call it a Basestar. Designed along the premises of executing the long-planned genocide of the 12 colonies, it's nowhere near as durable as its earlier version, but instead opts for an all-out offensive role as a dedicated fighter carrier and a heavy missile platform. Along those lines, its entire armament consists of 220 variable loadout missile launchers. They can be used to fire missiles with conventional warheads to nuclear ones, yielding from kiloton level ship-to-ship weapons to 50 megaton orbital bombardment strategic weapons. In normal ship-to-ship combat though, they usually fire a combination of conventional and kiloton level nuclear weapons, with their fighters providing a powerful defensive screen. The strategic level nuclear weapons are usually quite limited in number, likely less than a dozen per ship. Defensively, they're pretty much paper in comparison to their normal combatant, Battlestars. This has proven time and time again that whenever their fighter screen is breached, their destruction is pretty much guaranteed. Though they do have a limited ability to repair damage, it's usually far too slow for it to make any real difference in a tactical situation. And now we get to everyone's favorite part of any Basestar discussion, its massive fighter wing complement of 792 in total. It carries Raiders, a standard Cylon superiority fighter that specializes in swarm tactics. Raiders are equipped with 2 autocannons with hardpoints for missiles, though they're rarely used in combat. With their brain directly integrated into the fighter, it gives them excellent situational awareness and instantaneous reactions. Augmenting the Raiders are Heavy Raiders, which are slower, though they're tougher than their mass-produced counterparts. They function primarily as gunships and troop transports. The force composition is about 7 Raiders to 1 Heavy Raider. This gives the Basestar the ability to dictate strategic positioning, so long as it has the fighters to maintain sufficient pressure on the battlecruiser. Next up, we have the Behemoth class Battlecruiser, commissioned by the Terran Confederacy, but most recently employed by the Terran Dominion, its successor state. Though an aging class, a large percentage of them have been modernized, and one of those is going to be our other combatant, fully equipped with every upgrade possible in-game, as a half-strength ship isn't very fair against a vessel over twice its size. The Basestar comes in about 2,100 meters in length, compared to the Battlecruiser's own 956 meters. It's a large difference indeed. Speaking of which, the specifics we're working with for this ship are from the speculated stats put together by one Jin Shin, as actual stats are next to non-existent and power scaling is all over the place. One thing is for sure though, its main and signature weapon is its Yamato cannon. Using a directed thermonuclear explosion, its yield is easily in the high 100 kilotons to low single-digit megatons. For its secondary weaponry, it has a series of 16 railguns and mass drivers, though usually used for anti-ship rolls and limited anti-fighter duty. And to top it all off, it has a series of presumably a few dozen point defense laser cannons. While more capable against fighters, they're still easily overwhelmed, forcing it to directly tank incoming fire. Armoring the entire battlecruiser is several layers of neo-steel and vanadium, which is combined with reactive plating. This gives it incredible durability, easily equaling and surpassing that of Battlestars, surviving low megatons of firepower. Supplementing the heavy armor is a powerful, though temporary shield, only functioning for up to about a minute or so with an extended cooldown period. While not as tough as the armor plating, it does afford it a critical boost to its defense in dire situations. And for what it's least known for, carrying fighters, which it can carry in limited numbers. So for our battle, we'll give it 2 dozen Wraith superiority fighters and 1 dozen TAC support fighters, both of which are more than a match for a Cylon Raider. But since they're so hilariously outnumbered, they'll be reduced mostly to a token defensive force. With that being said though, Wraiths are equipped with cloaking, shielding, and advanced laser weapons, and thus would easily enjoy a very high kill-to-death ratio. This combined with a critical lack of sufficient point defense would mean a near total domination of the battle space by Cylon forces, beyond the immediate vicinity of the Battlestar. And at this point we move on to the battle itself. Their starting positions will be about 200 kilometers apart from one another in deep space. No FTL is allowed due to, ironically enough, the prevalent tactical use of it by both sides. So to avoid it being a game of FTL tag, only sublight will be allowed. Both ships will have full access to their fighter complements as well. At the start of the battle, all available fighters from both sides will be launched, and the 2 ships will begin to move towards one another. The Raiders and Heavy Raiders move in to attack the Battlecruiser and its 3 dozen strong fighter wing, quickly overrunning their defensive fire. At this point, the Wraiths and TAC fighters would have to hug the hull of the Battlecruiser, focusing exclusively on close-in defense, giving them the best chance of survival against such numbers. Seeing itself outnumbered and outranged, The battlecruiser would speed itself toward the Basestar, taking its way through the radar screens. Once within about 100 kilometers or so, the Basestar would open fire with a sporadic, though continuous barrage of mixed missile fire. Even the kiloton missiles wouldn't take out the battlecruiser, though it'd still be somewhat damaged. Any Wraith or TAC fighters that would have survived until now would all be destroyed. Trekking through the maelstrom of raiders and nuclear missiles, the battlecruiser would be finishing charging its Yamato cannon for a direct shot at the enemy vessel. Nearing the enemy, the shields would activate on the final approach to close the distance, securing its survival until the main weapon could fire. While battered and bruised, the nuclear beam would punch right through the Basestar with ease, splitting the vessel in two. This leaves the limping battlecruiser trying to deal with a few hundred remaining raiders, clearly a feat it's not capable of pulling off at this point. This leaves us in an odd situation where neither side can really finish off the other, though we'll give it to the battlecruiser due to having destroyed the primary vessel of the Cylon forces, a rough 5.5 times out of 10. Though not a true victory, as the Cylon raiders would have survived much longer even without the Basestar. So what happened? The battlecruiser had enough armor to survive the continuous nuclear bombardment, though it had far too little anti-fighter capabilities to counter the overwhelming numbers of the raiders. Simply put, they couldn't really destroy one another in a total capacity, but since the Cylons still lost their Basestar in the fight, they lost in the end. While the battlecruiser really took a beating to win that fight. If you want to see more versus matchups or breakdowns on a future installment, please comment below. Thank you very much for watching today's episode, I certainly hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe for more content, and remember, this was your first pass at the Battlecruiser vs Basestar.